Hey there, it's David, Evil Penguin Gaming, and I'm here to talk about the new 2024 D&D rule set that they're about to drop. They're going to drop the Player's Handbook on September 17th, 2024. The DM Dungeon Master's Guide November 12th, 2024, and the Monster Manual February 18th, 2025. So I have been watching a lot of the videos from Wizards, and I gotta say, I did not think I was gonna be excited about this new rule set. And after watching the videos, I have to honestly say that I am getting pretty excited about the new rule set. For one, they have said basically the stuff that they are saying seems to emphasize that they're going to make it better for new players, easier for new players to get into the game, which I think is a great thing. I think anything that makes it for new players to get into the game is good quality, and I think that anything that supports that is great. I try to bring in new players to my games a lot because I want more people to play this wonderful game that I've been playing for over 35 years. And wow. But I will say that I do hand players like new players sometimes. I'll hand them the player's handbook and I'll be like, here is the way to create your your character. And they'll just be a deer in headlights. So I'm gonna briefly touch over sort of the changes, like kind of a bullet point summary of the changes that are happening. Um, I I'm going to try to have videos in the future that are going to go into these in more detail, like the different classes. Like today, just today, they dropped a new druid class video, so I'll be watching that later. But so the first thing they say is that the new player's handbook is larger than the old player's handbook, and that is true. This player handbook is about 318 pages, 320 pages or so. The new player's handbook is 384 pages, so it's more than 50 pages, 64 pages larger. There are revisions for all 12 classes. And then in those classes, there are 48 subclasses total, or four each. So 45 that we know and have been reimagined and rebuilt for simplicity, I think, mostly for 2024. And then three brand new classes. And so let's talk about those. And so here we can see that we have the Barbarian has now the path of the Berserker, Wildheart, and the new class World Tree, and then Zealot. Bard has College of Dance, which is the new college. Glamour, Lore, and Valor. Cleric has Life, Light, Trickery, and War domains. Like before, Druid has Circle of Land, Moon, and now Sea, and then Stars, and Sea being the new one. Fighter has Battlemaster Champion, Eldritch Knight, and Psy Warrior. Monk has Warrior of Mercy, Shadow, the Elements, and Open Hand. Paladin, Oath of Devotion, Glory, the Ancients, and Vengeance. Ranger, Beastmaster, Fey Wanderer, Gloomstalker, Hunter. Rogue, Arcane Trickster, Assassin, Soul Knife, Thief. Sorcerer, Abhorrent, Sorcery, Clockwork Sorcery, Draconic Sorcery, and Wild Magic. Warlock, Archfey, Patron, Celestial Patron, Fiend Patron, Great Old One Patron, Wizard, Aperture, Diviner, Evoker, Illusionist. Those are the new classes and subclasses that are in the core. There'll be more, obviously. I mean, they're gonna sell you more books. So, but those are gonna be the ones. They have 16 backgrounds. Which I think the big change here that I like to see, this is one of the first things I really like to see, is that now ability score adjustments aren't tied to the race, or now it's called species. They are tied to the background, and you get a free feat with that. which, yeah, I think that's great. I personally really think that's great. It makes a lot of sense to me. That's not how, like, just because you're a dwarf does not mean necessarily that you get a constitution buff. I mean, yeah, but it would make more sense if it was taught. If you were a dwarf weightlifter, you'd get a strength buff. And I mean, it's like it would make more sense because your background would determine that more. If you're a dwarf that read a lot, it wouldn't make sense that you got a strength buff. It just wouldn't. It makes sense you got an intelligence buff instead. So that's really good. So they changed race now to species, which absolutely makes sense to me. 100%. It's more precise. Like it race is not quite the right word when you think of it. When you think of it entirely like a dwarf versus a human versus an elf, it's not a difference of race. They're different species. They can crossbreed and stuff, but they are different species. Um, and so that absolutely makes sense. And so this includes Azamar, Goliath, and Orc. Okay, great. I love it. Um, I definitely want to play an Orc, by the way. So I'm really excited about that. I think that's really great. And this is part of the core. Like, these things were available outside of the core books before, but now they're part of the core. So I think that's great, including them in the core along with the other classic species. There's now 75 feats, including high-level epic boon feats, which you get at level 19. Which, yeah, I think is great. I love the feat system. I think feats are really powerful. For my characters that I play, a lot of times I take feats over ability score increases, because some of the feat combos are just super powered. And if you're the type of player that I am, that often likes to mini max, then yeah, I mean, I don't like to mini max for the sake of role playing, but I like to mini max a little bit, and and comboing feats is a really good way to do that over ability score increases. Um, Another really new thing that I'm very excited about: mastery properties for weapons. I will definitely do a video on this later, but this is a really great thing. I think like this is going to be really great. Um, like using a longbow to have the property to slow opponents. Great. Just stellar. Because now the weapons definitely feel like different. You know? They feel more different. And I think that gives a lot of character. And they reworked some of the weapons. So I think they had a big emphasis on trying to make, if you were fighting with a scimitar versus fighting with a great axe, like making it feel different from a role play perspective. Um, and I think that's great. That really is, because otherwise we just all choose scimitar. If we need the finesse weapon, and we're all going to choose scimitar because it does the most damage. And so I think that'll be really cool. Nearly 400 spells across 100 pages. I think they've said they've organized the spells better too, so they're easier to work with, which is great because I find them very hard to sort of work with. Uh, you know, like if I go to a new player and I'm like, okay, well, you have to look up your list of first level spells here, but the spells are in alphabetical order, so you just have to search for each one of them in alphabetical order. Like, hopefully they've done something about that, because I found that to sort of be onerous, onerous, like very just sort of. Ugh. I mean, I kind of felt put upon to do that, so I hope they've organized that. Um, they've expansive play guide for new and returning players, which includes a term glossary, examples of play. I think they mentioned they gave like 3 examples of play that were actually pretty extensive. I don't know to the full extent, but um, that's really great for new players, I think. Game mechanic sidebars. Not sure what that means. Um, they have a little bit of that now, but I'm not sure what that means. More in depth character creation guide. It'd be nice if they had like a bullet list sort of thing, like in as brief as possible, about creating a character for new players so they don't feel overwhelmed. Um, and then annotated character sheets, which that's a great thing to have in the core. Like we've already had that with supplements that other people have created, and I've used those to help new players, including like cheat sheets for what they can do, like action economy cheat sheets and stuff like that. The new artwork looks fantastic, but I've never had a problem with. I don't think I've ever had a problem with any of the artwork in any of the D&D books. So they've always been great. They've definitely evolved since early artwork, but even when I was a kid, that stuff was great. Um, Streamlined organization, appendices, and indexes. Great. We got an index now. I just hope it's more robust. Um, because sometimes I can't even find stuff in index when I'm looking stuff up. The main thing is like they've reorganized it to sort of be easier to find stuff, so stuff is in a more logical place, which is sort of the problem now with 5e and other earlier editions too. But they had kind of stuff all over the place. So to look for a rule set, I'd have to either, it could be in the player's handbook, it could be in the dungeon master's guide. Like a rule mechanic could be in either of those places and not in the most obvious place, you know? Um, so I hope, like they've streamlined that. I'll have to see when I actually look at the book. But that'll be great. New equipment and spells. They've definitely changed or restructured the spells and the equipment, and they've done some tweaks to weapons and stuff like that, which is great. 400 spells, including revamped stuff from Tasha's, and they talked about Tasha's a lot. It seems like they took a lot from Tasha's Cauldron to put into the new rule set, which is great. Tasha's is a great book. I think it's good. Crafting rules for crafting your own magic items and weapons, great. Rules glossary. Healing potions, great. Now take a bonus action to use, which is a home rule that we already do, and a lot of other people do as well, because it's annoying. Like I've had almost total party kills because healing potions, take an action to use in the raw books, and it's like you just can't drink enough healing potion to make up for the damage you're going to take in a round of missed combat. It's brutal sometimes for players, and I think as a bonus action it's great. What I do is I say players can have a bandolier or a belt, and they can have 2 to 3 potions on that belt, right? And then the other potions are sort of in their bag. So they can't have all their potions available to them. They have to say what potions they have available on their person at all times. Kind of like the paper doll sort of video game sort of system of like putting stuff in your ready inventory and then your backpack inventory. And I really think that's a good way to do it. Another thing that I do that they didn't touch on, but I already know is in the new book, is they got new rules for exhaustion, and I already use that because I'm running Tomb of Annihilation, and I want to make the jungle elements like really sort of part of the role play, at least until level 5 or 6. And if I did the regular rules of exhaustion, it would just be pretty brutal for my players. And so I'm using the 2024 rules for exhaustion, which only, gives you a -1 at level 1 exhaustion and -2 and so on. Which is less brutal and goes up to 10 before you die, as compared to 4 in the raw in 5e. And it's just, man, it would just kill my players and I would hate it. And I it would limit me as a DM, because unless I really hated my players, which I don't, it's like I really couldn't make the jungle as brutal a place as I want it to be, and sort of make it part of the story for my characters in Tomb of Annihilation. Like, I want it to be another character basically for a few levels in Tomb of Annihilation until they get the magic cut and they're able to, like, make, mitigate all that. Bigger creature appendix. They're going to put some creatures in the player's handbook. And they've changed, like, mounts and stuff, and they've changed some of the stat blocks. I haven't seen the new stat blocks yet, but we'll see how they're reorganized. I thought the stat blocks were fine now for 5e, but I don't know. Maybe for new players it's better. Bigger list for druid transformations that are actually in the stat blocks for those transformations are going to be in the player's handbook, so you don't have to look in the monster manual or another reference for those transformations until you get to higher levels. Same for summoning spells and creature stat blocks for those. Psionics being incorporated more into the base game, which I really love. I played 2e a long time ago, and there was actually a psionicist class, if anybody remembers that, and it was really great. I had I leaned in that heavily. I had several characters that had psionics as at least a multi-class option, and I thought it was really great. I love psionics. I just think it's a really neat thing to have for D&D, and I don't know why. Some people don't like it. I liked it. Because in a world of wizards and magic, it's totally reasonable that you're also able to move stuff just with your mind without a spell. Let's see. Several design subclasses described as essentially new subclass. Okay, we got 3 new subclasses, right? Weapon mastery will be available via feat, so you can actually take weapon mastery via feat. Great. Origin feats and epic boon feats, just sort of more feats. I like more fighting style feats. I like this leaning into feats. It's really great, because I think feats were a really great mechanic that was introduced with 5e. I really enjoyed it, and I'm enjoying it more, and I use it a lot on my characters that I play. Heroic inspiration. So instead of inspiration, it's called heroic inspiration. It's now a reroll of any dice, not just a d20, and it's not just giving you advantage. And again, this is another rule that a house rule, where, because it's like, what I found was that using inspiration, which I love rewarding to my players for good role play or thinking out a puzzle correctly or doing something really sort of heroic in the session, I give them a point of inspiration because I think it encourages them to role play better. And I found that just saying it gave you advantage, the inspiration points are going unused, because there's a lot of things, especially by 3rd level, 5th level, there's a lot of things that give their characters advantage already. And so it wasn't getting used, and it was a shame. And so, I said you can re-roll any dice now, re-roll any d20, but now in my campaign with the new thing, I've said basically you can re-roll any dice if you want to use it, a damage dice as well. So they say specifically that this book supersedes old content once implemented. So you can still use 2024 characters in any module, fine. All right, like if you have a 5e module, you can play 2024 characters in that module. 2014 characters can play alongside 2024 characters, but they will be using 2024 rules and revisions as applicable. So what that means to me is that if you want to run 2024 characters, you need to run 2024 rules and then move those 2014 characters into the 2024 rule set. Okay, fine. So it's not totally cross-platform like we were sort of promised, but I kind of get that would be very difficult to do. So I'm interested to see how that's implemented. Judgment's still out. Suggested ability score raise for every class. Great. I mean, again, just more stuff to help new players. They seem to really be leaning into things to help bring in new players. Again, I think that's great. Table that shows which backgrounds bump which ability scores. Again, I think that's great that they're using that system for backgrounds for ability scores instead of species. Everyone but new players are encouraged to start at level 3. Okay, fine. Get it. Totally get it. The way I run my games now is I start most things at level 1, and I quickly kind of move them up to level 3, because I think level 3 is where it really starts to get interesting, right? But I start them at level 1 to sort of kind of give them time to get into their characters, and I give them challenges appropriate, So most of my challenges at level 1 or 2 are designed to help them get into their characters or to develop some of their backstory. And that's where my focus is up until level 3. And then you sort of get into the meat of the adventure. My Tomb of Annihilation campaign, they really haven't gotten into the meat of the adventure, and they're going to be level 3. They're just going to hit level 3 this next session coming up. And that's basically when they're going to be ready to go out in the jungle and really get into the meat of the adventure. So, yeah. But I have a DM that I play with that he always starts campaigns, anything at level 3. I mean, I think, yeah, that's fine too, because playing level 1 and playing level 2, you're so squishy, it kind of sucks. And it's not fun to stay there for long. So, I kind of always use milestone, especially for the early levels, and move them up pretty quickly. Rules for starting a character at any level. Again, another thing for new players, which I think is great, because it makes it just sort of easier. It can be confusing for new players to start at a higher level and try to develop a character for that. So a lot of emphasis on starting new players, bringing new people to the game, which I think very intentional on their part, and I gotta give it to them. They need to bring new players into the game to be more profitable, and it's better for us as DMs and players to have more and more players in this great game that we love. So I think that's all very good. These are sort of the bullet points. I'm going to try to do a video on different things. They dropped a video today just on Druid. I'm going to go watch that now. And I'm going to try to do a video on all this stuff until the Player's Handbook comes out in August. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think about the new Player's Handbook, the new rule set. If you're excited, if you want to see that change, like what you're excited about, what you're not excited about, let me know in the comments, and like and subscribe, and hopefully we can have a great discussion about this and share the passion for this game that we probably both love. I'm assuming you love it if you're watching this video. And yeah, I will talk to you later. Thanks very much for watching my channel. Again, my name's David, Evil Penguin Gaming, and thank you very much. I'm glad you're here.